Hey, are you struggling with sharing content about your courses, your communities, your coaching? Well, in this lesson, we're learning all about the OpenGraph protocol. It makes sharing content super easy. So that way you can share to Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and all these other places. You could share your photos. You could share your blog title, your description. It just makes sharing easy once you have OpenGraph set up. Let's learn how. Hi, I'm Angel from RTCourseExperts.com, and we help creative teachers with tech for their online courses, their membership communities, and their coaching websites. In this lesson, we're learning all about the OpenGraph protocol. We're going to learn what is it, why use it, we're going to learn how to set it up, and then how to actually share with it. Then we'll go over an example, and then we'll wrap up and summarize our top tips. First of all, what is it? Well, it's a protocol used to share page information like title and image with a variety of social networks. So it's this protocol, and once you use it, you can share with all these different places, and they understand that when you share links, here's the image that they should show, here's the title, here's the little snippet, the little preview description, and all these different sharing systems just work. Whether it's something traditional like Facebook or something, new like Threads or TikTok, the sharing just works. So why would you use this OpenGraph protocol? You want to use it so that your pages can be correctly previewed on socials. And if it's shown nice on socials, there's a nice thumbnail, there's a picture, a hero image, there's this URL, there's a little cool title that wraps and displays correctly. If that is all there, then you're going to get more clickbacks. You're going to get more click-through rates. So as you're sharing, people are going to click back to that source content, whether it's one of your sales pages or a new blog article you wrote, whatever it is, you're going to probably get more clicks, more engagement if that thing that you're sharing is more than just a URL, right? It's a URL, but then there's this cool picture. It's the right picture, because sometimes systems show the wrong picture, like, hey, here's a picture about that website or about Thinkific. And that's cool, but you wanted to show your Thinkific page, your Thinkific course and bundles and resources. So that's why it's really important. So once we set up this OpenGraph and you're starting to share around, your different pages and your different content, the sharing is going to look more awesome. And ideally, you get more clicks and more engagement on those shared links. All right, so let's talk about a how-to guide. First of all, we want to talk about setting it up. So if you have a website, there are plugins like All-in-One SEO. There are other plugins that you can get. There's lots of them that you can get that will make sure that SEO is looking good, and also your OpenGraph social sharing is working well. What this basically means is this plugin is going to make sure that for each of your very important pages that you clearly specify the title and the image to show. You may not want to just by default show your logo. You may have a really cool hero image that you want, or maybe there's this other image about your course program. So that's the exact image that you would want to show when you share. So these plugins make it very easy to configure what is the information that is shown on every one of these pages. Now, if you're using another system, like maybe you're using Kajabi or Mighty Networks or Circle or School or Thinkific, Teachable, etc. If you're using one of these other platforms, then they're going to take care of some of this for you. As part of their platform, they know if that page is, a course or a landing page or a community. So they know that, and based on that, they're going to use the metadata, the descriptions that you've set up, the hero image and the thumbnails that you've set up for those different services, and that's what should get shown when people see that page. So once you have your platform set up, whether it's a plugin or you're using a really great teaching platform, then you're going to want to check each of your components, right? For that, and you're going to do this per page. For each one of those important sales pages or for your blog. So the first thing you'll do is you're going to want to check the heading. This is the title of the page. This is what happens when your mouse highlights a tab and it shows you a little snippet. This is often the big bold letters at the top of your page, your heading. SEO loves this. This is usually the H1 tag, but not always, depending on, you can override it depending on the settings. So the first thing is you're going to want to make sure it's the right title. Some titles are like crazy long, and that's cool. There's a lot of good keywords in there, but for sharing, you'll just want like a really good set of maybe, your brand and maybe like 5 keywords that describes what that page is all about. Then you're going to want to make sure that you have an appropriate short description. Descriptions could be tricky because sometimes people want to really go all in on that description, and then you might get cut. It might turn into an ellipsis. You might only get like 20 or 30 words, or depending on the view, right, where you're sharing. If you're sharing on Facebook versus sharing on Twitter versus sharing in other places. So the other side will pick up that description and will potentially edit it or chop it up so that it could show. So you're going to want to pick out a good description, but not one that's ginormous and not one that's too short, because, after all, it's a description. It's your hook line. It's motivating people to click on something. And then you're going to want to specify the page-specific image. This is the image that's going to be shown on the other side. So you have probably a bunch of images on each of your different sales pages or blog articles, but this is the one image that you want to use. You want it to be able to scale. If you have text, you don't want text to go all the way to the edges, because that image might get cropped, or you might only see the inside part or the top part of that image. So you're going to want to very carefully pick out that image where the most important elements are in the middle. This is what the video producers call action safe, or safe, the text safe area. If you get chopped up at the top, bottom, left, that middle portion, that maybe the main character, a photo of your program or PDF or ebook, that's in the middle. And regardless of cropping, regardless of layout, it's going to be there. And then you'll have the title, and then ideally you'll have the description there as well. And once you think you're done setting up, you should test it out. So there are tools that are OpenGraph tools. So you can open up Google, search OpenGraph test, then you type in your URL. It could be the base site, or it could be a very specific page, like your community page or a very specific course. So you enter that URL, and then it'll let you know, hey, this is probably what it's going to look like when it goes to Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook. Okay. And in addition to that, you can then go to a tool and just do a quick test. You don't even have to post. So you can go create a post, type in some text, include the URL there, and you'll see that it auto detects. It's going to go to the website. It's going to pull this OpenGraph information, and it's going to try to populate it and create a little thumbnail, a little card, if you will, and it'll have the image. So you can kind of preview what it's going to look like. So at that point, you now have a platform set up. Your important page is set up. And at this point, in the future, as you share, it'll be easier and faster. And you have kind of all your infrastructure, your platform ready to go. So now that you have the OpenGraph protocol set up on your platform or your website, you can start sharing links. So you can either use a tool to share across multiple locations, right? These are social media management tools like Buffer or Hootsuite, or you can go directly to each individual social just to preview it and check it out. And I would definitely do that in the beginning. So you're going to then create the post, right? What is the text and imagery that you want to share? You're going to include the URL that you're trying to share. And then most programs are then going to start looking at that URL to see, hey, is there any OpenGraph information here? What do I know about this page? Or this specific page, not just the website. Is there a preferred image and a preferred title, or should I make one up based on the site if that information's not there? And so it's going to kind of build out a preview of what's there. And then you'll see that social sharing card. And then you're going to want to enhance it, right? Because you have the title, you have the image, a little blurb, but you're going to want to enhance it. So maybe don't just repeat the title, but maybe add a little motivation like, why, or need to learn this, or looking for something. Whatever it is that makes sense for your sales copy, you can add a little bit of extra text to either before or after that social media sharing information. If it makes sense, you can also add some hashtags. Remember, people are looking for stuff. There's a lot of information, 100,000 messages per second, right, that are going out there in these different platforms. So using hashtags still works, especially if you're in a certain niche, right? If you're in design or in fashion, photography, or in performing, whatever, in the music business. So whatever your industry is, go ahead and put those hooks there. Maybe combine it. There might be popular hashtags, or you might want to build one where there's like a noun and a verb, like teaching music or something like that. And then from a tracking point of view, from an ads point of view, and from a work point of view, you'll want to know which one of your platforms is sending people over. So you could potentially add some UTM parameters at the end of the URL, right? So you have this URL and it points to a very specific page. So by adding parameters, that's like at the end of the URL, you add like a question mark, and then you might do some things like source equals, medium equals, and these well-known parameters can help you know that, like, hey, I'm getting a lot of clickbacks from Pinterest or IG. So you'll know what's resonating. And of course, you could even try different hook lines on these different places so that you can kind of do a little bit of A/B testing, so that then you could go back and later on, if you're repurposing or reusing your content, you can go ahead and use those better performing hooks that help you get more click-throughs. Once you have your post set up, you got the link, you got your hook, you see that the social media sharing, the OpenGraph stuff is working, and you've set it up with tracking and hashtags or whatever else you want, then you can go ahead and share it. You could schedule it, you could do it live, you could use tools to do batch across multiple platforms, but definitely you want to make sure that some of this OpenGraph and social sharing platform settings are ready to go before you're just blasting them out to different platforms. And that's the high level how-to guide. So you set up the platform and then you start using it by sharing. Initially you share one off, and then later you could do batch sharing or scheduled sharing, where you don't have to preview and verify everything. Hey, just a quick reminder, you probably found us by looking for ideas on how to improve or trying to fix a problem in your training business. But before you forget, please subscribe to keep learning, and maybe share this with a bestie. You rock. Let's keep going. Now let's check out an example. Let's say you teach drumming. And in this case, I'm using an academy called Drumeo. Really cool drum teaching academy. So let's see how OpenGraph is working on this platform. Okay, so they're teaching drumming. They have different programs, different levels and courses and accessories and all this sort of stuff. But let's see what their high level sharing is and how they've set up their OpenGraph. So remember, whether you're using a plugin or a platform, the stuff underneath is going to map to HTML, right? Like the code, like JavaScript and angle brackets and all that stuff. So all HTML pages, in case you don't know, they have a head and a body. The head is like, what's this page about? Hey, here's some JavaScript and here's some styles for my website. And then the body is like the actual images and buttons and stuff like that, right? So in the head of the OpenGraph, it's going to have tags, these different little attributes. And so if OpenGraph is set up, there'll be an OpenGraph title. There'll be an OpenGraph URL. There'll be an OpenGraph image and an OpenGraph description. And they'll be flagged as OG, right? OpenGraph, but they're there. These are text attributes that are now configured. And so when these different websites like Facebook receive a URL that needs to be shared, Facebook will go back and go check on that website, and it's going to go download the HTML for it, and it's going to look in the head and say, hey, by the way, do you have this other information? Because otherwise I got to figure it out and just find an image, or I might not even be able to share any extra information. So these different platforms like Facebook and whatnot are going back to your website, to that page, and saying, hey, what's the official title? What's the description? What's the image I should use just for this page, this exact URL? Not the website, but for this exact sales page, for this exact course. In this case, it might be the homepage of the academy. When people are sharing about this academy on Facebook and they include the URL, Facebook goes and fetches all this stuff. And then it creates a nice little preview snippet, which is really like that social media sharing card. And then that's perfect. And by the way, behind the scenes, I think Facebook did help create the OpenGraph protocol. So they're especially going to leverage and correctly format your OpenGraph content to get to the most number of users, right? Facebook and Meta and IG and all those other ones, WhatsApp, etc. As either the company, in this case, it's the Drumeo drumming business, the company is sharing their content is going to get picked up by each of the social channels correctly, okay? Or if their fans or if their students and users and members decide to share, like, hey, I use this website, and as they're sharing it on their communities, could be Discord, could be Slack, could be some message board or part of your community, right? Where your students are talking about the different kinds of creative skills that they're trying to learn. On those communities, when you enter that URL, it's also going to try to pick up the OpenGraph content to show a little snippet, the right image, the title, description, and even know what link to take them back if somebody were to click on that social media share. So in the end, businesses like yours are going to be able to use OpenGraph to set it up, configure it, and then share seamlessly across all the different platforms. Let's summarize. Here are the top things you need to know about this OpenGraph protocol. You need to set it up. Either you picked out a really awesome platform like Kajabi, Thinkific, Mighty Network, Circle, School, or you have a platform that you've built on top of WordPress with maybe LearnDash or MemberPress or these different plugins. So you have this platform, it supports the OpenGraph, and every time you have an important page, you go and you tweak the OpenGraph settings so that social sharing works seamlessly, regardless of all the platforms. And then you just share away. You share away, or your team shares away, or your students and other people, when they link to your websites, they're going to automatically pull all this extra information so that you can have a really nice message. In addition to that, your URL will actually pre-populate with a little social media sharing card, and that's going to have all the extra information. And that's it. So once you have all this stuff set up, sharing will happen faster. You'll get more clicks. You'll get more engagement. You'll get more shares as well, right? So now you're a lot smarter on OpenGraph protocol and how it helps you share and grow your online training business. If you're loving this stuff, go ahead and subscribe to keep leveling up your training business. To learn more, check out the expanded details in the notes. If you need any tech help with your online courses, your membership community, or coaching website, visit www.rtcourseexperts.com. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Let's stay in touch.